Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Director, screenwriter, and producer Mike Cregan is today's guest. Mike will talk about his many years as a director, as well as his film Grace in Motion.
Screenwriter, producer, arts advocate, Mike Cregan. Welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
No, thanks. Good to see you, Mark.
Great to have you on, seriously. I want to dive into some things right away because I'm so interested in your 25 plus years working with clothing designers. And how did that come about?
Oh, yeah. It was just a little bit by chance, and that we had started and working with a number of companies on different ideas, and then finally decided that I needed to hone in on what we most liked and most had an advantage in, and that happened to be working with clothing designers on things for their shops, basically. You know, nothing super exciting, but it was good. We've worked with Calvin Klein and Chanel and Oscar de la Renta, Michael Kors, and many, many others. So that's been good.
Well, that sounds exciting to me. I often ask people what their impact was on the people they've worked with. So how do you think you've enhanced the lives or the businesses of artists and shop owners?
Well, basically, we've made it so that it was a bit easier for them their items were more presentable, and therefore people would like them better and would therefore basically buy them more readily. And then in a sort of a turn of things, we decided about 12 years ago to, as demanding as the designers were and so forth, that if we didn't have a budget, that we could, do something much, much better. And so we decided to basically do that, to sell directly to consumers through an e-commerce, and which, again, 12 years ago, it looked like that was going to be the wave of the future. Right. And so we did that. And that actually has done, very, very well. And I should say exactly what it is that we make. And again, I said it's not necessarily very exciting, but works very well, which is that we began by making the wooden clothing hangers that the designers use to hang their items on in their shops. And of course, a lot of people, when they pick up something off the rack to look at it, dress or whatever it might be, what it is hanging on actually lends an atmosphere to that item of clothing that they have in their hand, in that if it's really good, they're going to, again, assume that what they're looking at is also really good. Mm. If it isn't very good, if it's just mediocre or just, a run-of-the-mill sort of a thing, that gets associated with the piece of clothing that's on that. And so that's there. And then, like I say, for when we sell directly to consumers to use themselves, most of them, they want something that looks really good, and we're considered to be like basically the best in the world at what we do, and which has been an interesting kind of a thing. And I say that, I just put it this way. Generally, yes, but more specifically, chairman of the board of Waldorf Astoria told me that about 7 or 8 years ago. Specifically, he said, when he was looking for things for their VIP suites, right? And he said, we talked to people, and he said, believe me, we know people, and they all said that you're the best in the world.
Wow.
And so to hear it from him was pretty nice.
I have to tell you, that's a great compliment indeed. I've actually interviewed people who've done major work with the Waldorf Astoria. When they say, we know some people, that cannot be taken lightly. So that's amazing. Yes. And I loved earlier, it said, oh, it happened by happenstance and that kind of things. And I want the viewers to know that sometimes serendipitous things turn into other relationships and other projects. So now I know you met someone by the name of John Bering. And how did that meeting take place? And how did that all of a sudden burgeon into the idea of for the Circle of Grace? Walk me through that relationship and how that switched things for you in your life.
Okay, well, we'll try to do a short circuit of the story. But basically, after a trip to New York City about 5 years ago, I was walking through a certain commercial area of town here and noticing that, man, there are a lot of closed shops, empty shops and so forth. And I thought to myself, I don't recall seeing that many closed shops in Midtown Manhattan. I wonder why, and I started thinking about it and I thought, oh, well, they have art museums there in that area. And they also have a number of art galleries. So I got the idea of starting art galleries in this center to, as something that might actually work really well. And so I founded the Lecumber Center for Creative Arts. And it basically is a number of galleries and studios spaces that where we have a number of artists in residence at each particular gallery, and they work there and display there. And in one of the galleries, every so often we have a thing, it's kind of a party called an art walk, and where we do a lot of different things. And one of the times that we did an art walk, John Bering and his wife were going through, and he really liked what we were doing. And he, in addition to being a very top network TV director, he also is a photographer. And he had been looking and thinking about getting his photography on display and in a gallery and being part of that. And so he decided to join us. And he has a place both down in a home down in Los Angeles when he's working on a series, and a home in the Montecito area up here for weekends. And so he became part of the Lecumber Center for Creative Arts. And a few months later, we had another art walk, and I arranged to have the State Street Ballet, which is a really top ballet company here, to do something a little different in that we had a large canvas on the ground, and we had them dip their shoes in paint and make a painting while they were dancing. And they had a lot of fun doing that. And John saw that, and he had taken some photos, a little video and whatever. And he then said later, we should do some kind of a film of them dancing through the galleries and so forth. And then the idea came up of, I thought about it and said, what we should do is have one of our artists sitting in front of a plain canvas trying to figure out what to paint or what to do. And then somehow this comes in as inspiration and so forth. And then John really put it in a whole different category by saying, we should have Grace Fisher as that artist. Mm. Now, Grace Fisher is not in our galleries, but she has a space close by the Grace Fisher Foundation. It's called the Inclusive Art Clubhouse. And the quick story on her is that she was a ballet dancer, a cello player, music composer, and a number of other things. When she was in high school, she was accepted to the Berklee School of Music and to be there as a student. And her senior year, the summer of her senior year, a very rare disease struck her and paralyzed her from the neck down. But she wouldn't give up. And she kept going. And her inspiration, which is very strong, led her to find ways to be able to continue creating. And that then inspired other people. And then people formed a foundation around her. And then, as I say, about a year and a half ago or so, they opened up close by to us their Inclusive Arts Clubhouse, where they work with other kids that have disabilities to help them to implement the artistic ideas that they have. And so when John came up with the idea of having her be the artist, that kind of, like I said, that kind of bumped it up to a whole different category and level. And that's how that started.
Well, that's incredible, because even from the get-go, I have to tell you that you talk about e-commerce, and my wife and I, when we drive by certain areas, strip malls, we see that those brick and mortar and those mom and pop shops aren't there anymore, and there's empty space. And I just love the creativity you have, that you see the empty space when you walk and you say, let's do this here. Then you do something, and you said it kind of nonchalantly, like, you know what? We also decided to have who would walk by an art space and say, you know, it would fit good here in this exhibit? Ballerinas. I don't know too many people that would come up with that. And then it just, I guess creativity creates creativity, because then John Bering comes in and he says, you know, we should have Grace Fisher come into this. But I have to tell you, and I can see your face when you say this, and things that you write about, Grace, it seems that you continue to grow, and even more as a human being, vicariously through the strength of this young woman of Grace Fisher's. Can you expand on her impact on you, not just creatively, but I would say almost inside, intrinsically?
Yes, that's very much something that affect not only me, but we just did the basic filming for the film this past weekend, and it affected the entire crew, actually. And she is just, let me put it this way to give it a little better, maybe, stamp of approval. And that is that they did a documentary about her a year or so ago that's on Amazon Prime called Amazing Grace. And in part of that documentary, there was a thing where Justin Hurwitz, who is the man who composed the music for La La Land, and he won, I guess he's won 2 Academy Awards for the best song and then also for the score. He worked with her on doing a score for like a symphonic piece, you know, and he worked with her on it. And one of the quotes from him was that Grace Fisher is the most inspiring person I have ever met. And when you have somebody like that who says that, then, you know, it's got to have some truth to it.
I'm sure. And so many times in life, look, I'm not belittling people's problems. We all have problems. But it's amazing that there's 2 pieces to this. One, you see somebody who is disabled and not feeling sorry for themselves, but continuing even with more aggressiveness than before she was afflicted with this disease. So it's just incredible. And, you know, like you said, when the person, people said, this is the most incredible person I've met. You're talking about people who have met some pretty incredible people. So that's right. that's really a huge, obviously heartfelt statement. So what is the message of this film, and what do you hope viewers will walk away with after watching?
Well, the message of the film is something that probably is really something that is in John's hands. And so I don't want to really speak for him necessarily, but in general, what it has to do with is that inspirational force that powers Grace and powers art in general. You know, a more broad point of how it powers art in every respect. And And that's it's as another point here is that there are many people who have all the physical ability you could have, and they do nothing. And so it is not the physical ability which is the most important thing. It is the inspiration and that creative force that the person has that makes the difference. And I think that's one of the points of the film that we hope to get across, that people will see, and that how, that it's kind of like the muse and how that happens and gets something to go from an idea to reality.
Sure. And when I hear about musicianship and composers, more specifically, I only met him twice. My grandfather was a rather well-known composer in the 50s, 60s in Hollywood and LA. He wrote for the Loretta Young Show and One Step Beyond. And I've read some books that he's mentioned in, and what you say resonates with me because when you are a musical composer, I think sometimes there's a little genius somewhere in that section of the brain, because I'll never understand. I played a couple of musical instruments, but to hear those sounds and to see that when she was afflicted with this illness, she met with a star composer, the man you mentioned who did La La Land, and that is some very demanding work. To be creative is one thing, but to put that in and implement it and make that beautiful music together, for lack of a better term, that's really incredible. So how old was Grace when she came down with this illness?
I believe she was 17, and I believe she is 26 today. And I should also note that she is also an artist, a painter.
Right.
And since she is paralyzed from the neck down, the way she paints is by she has a brush that has a certain mouthpiece that enables her to hold it in her mouth and move the brush around to make the images. And I want to tell you, if you did not know, if you saw the painting,
right,
you would never know that it was done that way, because it looks as good as any painting that you've seen that somebody paints with their hand.
That's incredible. I'm almost seeing in my mind's eye a scene in a movie where the artist doesn't come out, but the artwork comes out first. And they see it's so beautiful. Now I want to introduce you to all these galas, and now I want to introduce you too. And she comes out. That must be, the jaws must drop, and it must be quite a sight to behold, because she's an artist in every way, not just the painting, the music. It's just incredible. So
yes.
Yeah. How do people on set contain themselves when they're in the presence of this kind of super being?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I would say that sometimes they didn't necessarily contain themselves, and they showed what they thought of her as they were working, and as I say, her inspirational ability is contagious, and if you don't mind, I want to try to see if I can bring up one or two of those emails to read you, because that will tell you, much better than me paraphrasing or that sort of a thing, what exactly they thought.
Sure, and absolutely. And while you're doing that, it's reminiscent of, we see so many stories about people on the set who complain about people. He was yelling at the light guy. He was a horror to work with. And now you have a 360-degree here with somebody weighing in on, it sounds like, I'm sure that they were enamored of her presence just in the same room. So I'd love to hear some of those thoughts.
This is from the head camera person. Now, all these people who came are people who they're like tremendously experienced professional feature. They've worked on many features. And so they're not amateur cameramen or sound people or that sort of thing. John got like the best of the best to work on this. And all of them worked basically on their own time to do this because they were inspired by Grace. Now, here's one thing I'll read for you. This is, again, from the head cameraman. In capital letters, the first 3 words, he goes, wow.
Wow. I knew it was going to be wow.
I said, wow, just wow. What an incredible film you've grown here. Thank you so much for making this happen. I will forever be humbled, grateful, and honored to have been involved in this project in a small part and to contribute to the greater purpose that Grace has in this world with her message, artistry, and resolve.
Wow.
Yeah.
All I could say is wow. That's just incredible.
And there were a number of other ones that were like that.
Well, for them to take the time, Hollywood's a busy place. You're only as good as your next project. And to take the time is just incredible. But I'm wondering, what is Grace's reaction to what's going on now?
Well, I can read you a little bit of that too. Okay. And this is what she said. Okay. This has been one of the most special things I have experienced, and I am so grateful to all of you for making this project happen. And then she then went, and every year in December, the Grace Fisher Foundation has a concert, annual concert recognition and fundraising and all those sorts of things. A theater here in town called the Granada Theater holds maybe about 1,500 to 2,000 people. It's usually full. And so she's saying, hey, we will have a premiere of the film there this December.
Wow.
So, yeah, she says one of the most special things that she's ever experienced.
That's really incredible. So rewarding that so many people are saying these things. So when and where can we see this film and other things that Grace is associated with or you're associated with? What's the plan there?
All right. So, like I say, people can right now on Amazon Prime, there's a featured documentary. It's called Amazing Grace. And it was about her and the background of all these things that happened and what she's done since. And it was directed by Lynn Montgomery. And I think if you just go to Amazon Prime and you search Amazing Grace, you'll find it there. And that will tell you a lot about her, a great deal. And many of the crew I know and people involved in the project got involved because John had suggested to them, hey, take a look at this. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to be part of it. They just had to be part of it after that. And so that's an immediate way that people can see a little bit about her and what she does. The film itself, again, I know there's still a lot of work to be done, all the editing, the scoring, the special effects, all those sorts of things. So I can't say exactly when the premiere of it would be, though it kind of seems like it's generally getting agreed that it'll premiere in December at the Grace Fisher Foundation show at the Granada Theater here in Santa Barbara. And then after that, I'm not sure exactly what plan John has for it, though I know it's film festivals and some other things like that.
Well, it's an incredible story. So just in closing, Mike Cregan, thank you so much for being a guest and sharing your incredible, I'm going to call it a journey. It's a journey with us because this didn't happen by accident. It was kind of kismet, as we say, and just some incredible information about an incredible person. Just very quickly to the viewers, don't forget to watch us on E360 TV, available on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. EST on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. Remember to follow us on social media. Life Stories with Marc Hoberman is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course our YouTube channel. So do not forget to subscribe. Mike Cregan, thanks again for being here today. This Grace Fisher story is one for the ages. It's classic. It's so inspiring. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me and letting me tell a little bit about Grace.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.